Hey everybody, I'm Blue, and for the month of October, I thought it would be appropriate to do a series of videos all about fall or the spook season. So, starting that off today, and I want to talk about a little game called Ghost Trick. For this video, you're gonna see a style study I did where I translated the Mountain Mover players from my campaign Giant Slayer into the Ghost Trick style. At the end, I'll talk a little bit about my process for how I came up with the design specifically, but mostly, I just want to talk about this cool little game. Ghost Trick is the story of Sissel, a recently departed man trying to figure out how he died and why he can't remember his past at all. But there's a trick to this. He only has one night to do it before he disappears at sunrise. Throughout the game, you will connect a series of seemingly nonsensical and unrelated events together to find out the mystery of Sissel, as well as the mystery of several other characters that come into play, whether it be the poor newbie Detective Lynn, who is just going to experience the worst night of her life over and over again, but don't worry, she takes it in stride, the bereft and nihilistic death row inmate Jowd, or the jittery, eccentric Minister of Defense. All of these characters, despite seemingly having nothing in common, come together to form the mystery that is Sissel. I am not a big fan of puzzle games. I tend to get really aggravated really quickly with them, but the story and vibrant characters in this game kept me engaged pretty much the entire time, as well as the base mechanic for the puzzles. Possess objects to accomplish your goal, each with their own means of moving and the way that they connect to each other being determined by you. And if you're like me and don't like puzzle games, there's no harm in looking up somebody else doing the puzzle just so you know how to move on with the story. Because I promise you, this is a story worth viewing. I could go into detail about it, but something that amazes me about this fan base is that as long as this game has been out and as little of a reception as it received, the fandom refuses to spoil this game's big twist. And so, I'm not going to either. It's one of those things that where you're going through the chaos of the story, you might recognize a few bits and pieces of it, but it feels more like a comedy ha-ha joke than it does actual foreshadowing. Then you go back and play it again, now knowing how to do those silly little puzzles, and so many things that felt like a throwaway joke becomes relevant and makes sense. Even though this isn't a choice-driven game and the decisions are made for you, the fact that you and Sissel chose to help these people, the fact that you choose to pursue who you were to find out who you are, that matters. And where I don't think this game quite succeeded so much in the "it's the friends you meet along the way" message that it kind of has, it succeeds at everything else. You as the player become so endeared to all of these wacky characters, and by the end, when you're getting their endings, their finales, their what happens next to them, it's a little bit emotional because you were in those moments and you cared. Also, goodness gracious, the art design and the sound design for this game are top-notch. All of the portraits are so alive and vibrant, and even though there's not a bunch of them, you understand the way that each character moves and how they react to things. The deep, dark shading plays with the idea that you are dealing with undead stuff. You are dealing with a game that has a bit of darkness to it, despite how vibrant and lighthearted everything is on the surface. The designs are built with a verticality in mind, first and foremost, which results in a lot of characters just having absolutely insane hair, which is lovely, but it also forces the eye up to their face to focus on those reactions that they have to the things around them. The animation present throughout the game is minimalistic, but so fun. Every so often the animators just go nuts and come up with this insane sequence, and then it's back to normal, and those sequences stand in your mind. They stick out like a sore thumb. There's a detective who refuses to walk down the stairs like a normal person, a character that eats chicken in the most absurd fashion, and the infamous panic dance, which has me really wanting to cosplay as Bailey just for the sake of learning how to do it. Overall, I definitely think that Ghost Trick is within my top 10 favorite video games. For the style, the vibes, the story, the character direction, and overall just how memorable and strange the world is. And if you're like me and you struggle with puzzle games and you don't know if this is for you, I can say that Jello Plays Games has a very good, fully voice-acted playthrough of this game. And if nothing else, it is worth checking out for the story alone. You can certainly get through the game faster if you play it on your own, but if you want something to put on the background and you're curious, I recommend the Jello Plays Games playthrough. But now, as promised, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the thought process I had for the designs of each of these characters and their relations to the game. because I do think a fun and interesting thing to do in world building and character development is to take them totally out of their element and just have fun with them. First off, we have Clara, who, typically speaking, is a rogue. So obviously the correct and easiest decision is to make her a police officer or detective. This has to do with her backstory about being raised by paladins more so than it does with her actual class, though. I imagine she strikes away from the family business and opens her own detective agency, perhaps a little bit illegally. It was difficult to try to translate the fire aspects of her design without just giving her fire hair, but I like the little streaks at the top. It reminds me of a burnt cigar. I also made sure to have her ponytail go up instead of down to match the verticality of the canon designs. Speaking of paladins, next is Blessing, but because of the fact that she is also a demon and technically not of the same race or culture as any of the other players, I decided to make her from the other country, which meant giving her blue skin and a really cool business suit. Typically speaking, Blessing wears a full suit of armor, so I thought spicing up the suit with some metal spikes would give off the similar impression. It's my boy, Jack! I decided to make him a fugitive of the law who escaped from the inescapable prison through means that no one understands, just as if he almost had help somehow. Some tricky help. Some ghost tricky help? And that meant putting him in a blue and white striped jumpsuit and an overly sized jacket to pull in his regular orange color theme. Look at that little pouty face! I adore drawing Carlisle in different styles because she's always so fun to innovate, and especially with so much of her design going downward, I had to figure out how to rework it in the opposite direction to give it the vertical nature so many of these designs have. I decided to make her essentially a once con artist medium who used to pretend to see the dead, but now, thanks to a certain friend of hers, she's now able to see ghosts for real and is still trying to figure out how to adapt to that. I wanted to give her a spooky little girl in a place that she shouldn't be vibes. Let me know if I succeeded. Lastly, in the game, there's a cutscene with a meteor that is very important to the story, and one of the characters is convinced that there's a guardian of the park who lives inside the meteor. I decided to take that story and make it reality for our Aasimar cleric Lucy. 'Cause, I mean, from the heavens, from space, kinda synonyms, right? Plus, it helps that the meteor in question is already the same color palette as Lucy, blue and yellow. So I took her angelic features and combined them with some of the traits of the meteor, and here we go. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, I think Ghost Trick is a game that is worth checking out. Whether you watch somebody else play it or play it yourself, it's really good and interesting in so many ways. Come for the big, vibrant characters and stay for the surprisingly well-written story. And where this might not have been the spookiest of videos, I hope a couple of ghosts and their tricks find their way to you this spook season. Meanwhile, I will be avoiding such shenanigans, at least. Until next time, later!